Hi everybody and welcome back to Harry's Music Room. I thought today I would do a video mainly about the oddball Beatles albums, the ones you don't see all the time. Stuff that was put out in 64, 65 to capitalize on, no pun intended, to capitalize on their popularity because, they didn't know how long they were going to last, so people were putting stuff out left and right. Wanting to get in on the Beatlemania. A lot of the information that I get on the records that I buy, I'm going to show you a few books. Number one is Bruce Spizer's The Beatles Swan Song, and this covers all kinds of the early labels. These books were expensive to buy when they first came out, and they've only gone up in price because they're out of print. But for example, this covers Swan Records, United Artists, Decca, MGM, Atco, Polydor, and then what it calls albums of dubious origins. So this is a very valuable book to me. It will take you through various pressings, like not just promo labels, but the different pressing plants where they may have been pressed, showing you sometimes international covers for the same album. These are great books. I can't say enough about Bruce's books, and typically when I would buy them, I bought them directly from Bruce because they were self-published, and he would always sign the books. I think it might have cost a little extra to get it signed. I can't remember. But there's that book. This book by Perry Cox is way out of date. I mean, I don't even know what year this came out. But it seriously needs a new book. But this has so much valuable information on early original American pressings all the way up to whenever the book came out, which, let's see, when is that? It's got to say in here 2007. So and I can only imagine the amount of work that would go in just to document stuff from 2007 through today, and then probably to go in and find stuff that was missing from this book. But this is the definitive book, in my opinion, for figuring out different pressings, and you get an idea on values, but the values are all not valid anymore. Another Bruce Spizer book is called The Beatles Are Here, The Beatles Are Coming, The Birth of Beatlemania in America, and this goes through so much information. It's unbelievable the amount of work that Bruce puts into these books. His research is impeccable. He's a lawyer and he knows how to research things. And he did the liner notes on the new Beatles Mono 1964 box set, Capitol release. And then this is Bruce's book called The Beatles on Apple Records. And it's got Beatles on Apple and Beatles Solo. 2 books in this binder. Absolutely super detailed. This is the set of books you want, and it's pretty pricey now if you can find someone willing to sell it. But these are just fantastic books. And then I also have one more of Bruce's books, and that is The Beatles for Sale on Parlophone. Again, highly recommended. If you can get them, get them. So now let's get into some of these records that you just don't see all the time. What was truly the first album in America was Introducing the Beatles on VJ, which I'm sure everybody has seen. I love this album. There's a ton of counterfeit pressings. I won't say bootlegs because they're not bootlegs. They're counterfeits of this. The very first pressing had Love Me Do and P.S. I Love You. Those songs had to be removed. They didn't have the rights to them, apparently, to license them. So they replaced them with Ask Me Why and Please Please Me. There's so many variations, legitimate variations of this album. There's all kinds of variations on the label. It literally takes a book to figure out what you're looking at. The best way to find out if you have a bootleg, or not a bootleg, I just said it, a counterfeit pressing. This is a obvious counterfeit pressing. I picked it up because it's in the shrink wrap with the original price tag. But you can do what they call the honey test. If you look on the back on the word honey, there'll be a little bit of a deformity in the letter H. There was a pressing, a printing error. There's just a little part of it that's missing. So that's the honey test. The other thing is, if you see the title above the spindle hole and the Beatles' name together on one line, or two lines, but above the spindle hole, that is a counterfeit pressing, without fail. There are no original pressings that have both above the spindle hole. Now, this is a counterfeit stereo copy. Stereo copies of this album are very hard to find. There's so many variations. I can't even begin to tell you about the variations. But here we have an example of a counterfeit where the name of the Beatles is below the spindle hole and the title is above the spindle hole, which you would think would be, legit, but it's not. Look at the size of the dead wax. That's a giveaway. There should be an MR for Monarch pressing in the dead wax. And look how bad this printing is on the rainbow label. They just the counterfeits are just really poorly made labels. So when in doubt, just go to Discogs. They'll pretty much let you know what you've got. Now, VJ had the rights to that album, and they made as much money off it as they could. They put out this album, and this is called Songs, Pictures, and Stories of the Fabulous Beatles. And this is a 3/4 gatefold record. And on the back, you've got the 4 Beatles with little hearts, and you could put a picture there of you, apparently. If you were a young girl and you wanted to say you love John, you'd put a picture here, I guess. Yeah. Paste your picture with your favorite Beatle. They made bootlegs of this, and I'll get to that in just a minute. Or counterfeit, sorry. But here we have an example of one of the label variations. And then this record was released in, I believe, 11 different cities. And it came in stereo and mono. And in those cities where the Beatles were playing, they put a sticker over it. And this one says, souvenir of their appearance at the Hollywood Bowl, August 23rd, 1964. I can't imagine that there was how many of these records actually had these stickers on them. But I think 11 different cities had mono and stereo copies with the sticker. So there's 22 variations just of this sticker that you can try to find. This is the only one I've ever found in my entire life of collecting Beatle records. It's really hard to find these. And again, it's the 3/4 gatefold sleeve. Now, they did a counterfeit of that without the gatefold, and it's just a regular album cover. And they took off, it says Songs, Pictures of the Fabulous Beatles. It doesn't say, it says Songs and Pictures. It doesn't say if you look at this one, songs, pictures, and stories. And the reason it doesn't say stories here is because the stories are on the inside. And this record here did not open, so there were no stories. So they took that off. This is a very common counterfeit pressing. This one happens to be sealed, which is why I picked it up. But VJ wasn't done yet making money off of that one album. Next, they did a Beatles versus the Four Seasons. Now, I can't imagine that this sold very well. It's really hard to find. This is a mono set in really nice condition, beautiful condition. I didn't even put the records in the sleeve because I don't want to get splits, but this thing is in just great shape. And both records are in beautiful condition. It's one of the nicest ones probably out there. But the thing is, it also came with the very rare original poster, which you almost never find. Most of the people that bought this record put the poster up on the wall, and even this poster now has been copied and people sell them on eBay, but this is an original right here. Now, next, VJ is still at it. And here we have the Beatles and Frank Ifield. This is an original pressing. This is not a bootleg or a counterfeit. This has let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 Beatles songs on here. So once again, VJ's gonna put this record out and try to milk it for everything they can. But there was another one. Now that was an original pressing. This one is not. This is a unofficial counterfeit because this is an extremely rare album. But they did put it out with this cover, and it's super hard to find. Same album, same songs, but different cover. Next up we have from 1964, MGM with the Beatles, with Tony Sheridan and guest, and you get My Bonnie, The Saints, Cry for a Shadow, and Why. Cry for a Shadow being the only song written by John Lennon and George Harrison on the standard MGM label. And then Atco got in on the scene. They were a division of Atlantic, and they put out Ain't She Sweet, the Beatles, the great group sounds from England. And on this one, you've got the purple and brown label, and you've got Ain't She Sweet, Sweet Georgia Brown, Take Out Some Insurance on Me, which I really like that version. Nobody's Child, again, I like that one with Tony Sheridan. And then it goes into other bands, the Swallows, who I've never heard of, but the Swallows do all these Beatles songs. From Me to You, Hold Your Hand, She Loves You. So another one trying to cash in on the Beatles' popularity. But Atco Atlantic wasn't done yet either. They just took the same stuff and pretty much repackaged it as the Amazing Beatles on their budget label, which was Clarion Records. This was available in mono and stereo. This is the stereo copy. The mono has a different color label, but it's the same design. And then in 1965, actually I remember my mother giving this to me for a Christmas present. The Savage Young Beatles, and this is the same stuff with Tony Sheridan. But this was my first experience to those songs, and I played this to death. I love that cover photo with Pete Best. Now this is a reissue. There's one variation of this cover, and I think the only difference is that this logo has a different color circle around it. But again, I could go to either Bruce Spizer's book or Perry Cox's book and figure that out. And then that was on Savage Records. And then Savage Records also put out the best of the Beatles, but it's really best of the Beatles, and it's Pete Best songs. It's not Beatles songs. So they were a little deceiving on their title of the record, and this is a reissue from 1971. I do not have an original pressing of this. And then we also had a fellow by the name of Ed Rudy, who capitalized by putting out records of him talking to people about the Beatles. The Beatles aren't on this. But if you look at this right here, there's a card, and it says this includes a Beatles magazine. It's extremely rare to find these with this card and with the original magazine. You can tell it's the original magazine because the newsstand editions all said 35 cents here. The ones that were originally issued with the Ed Rudy record have no price on them. And then there's two variations of this. There's this picture of Ed Rudy, and then there's one with him holding a microphone. And then, which I have, but I just didn't pull it out. And then this is the label. And then he also put out another one a little bit later. And there's two variations of this. This is a reissue of the rarest one. The rarest one says Beatles here. The other pressing of this record is just blank. All it says is, "It's here, love," brand new, but there's no Beatles. And then they kind of have this back photo. I'm not sure if that's really them or not. It's hard to tell. It might be. And then on the back, you've got a bunch of different photos. So Ed Rudy kind of made a career. He did one of those records for the Dave Clark 5, and I think he also did one for the Rolling Stones. Okay, up next we're going to get into the infamous Butcher cover. This is a second state mono, and when I say second state, it means that this cover has been pasted over the original, what they call the Butcher cover. And you can see Ringo's sweater through, it's right here. I'm going to get a little more light on it maybe. Anyways, there's a dark V, which if you can't see it, trust me, it's there, right here where my finger is. And then next we have the same thing, but this is a stereo copy. This is in the stereo. I think 90% of these records were mono, so the stereos are very hard to find. And this one is in great shape. It's getting harder and harder to find them because so many people peel them, so now the desirable ones are the ones that are pasted over. And then we have a stereo copy that I did not peel. Somebody did it, but they did a beautiful job. Just a beautiful job on this. And I got to thank my friend John Elkboy for pointing this out and saying, "Hey, Harry, did you see there's a Butcher cover over here?" he seems to find the good stuff for me. And then also I have a bootleg picture disc of the Butcher cover. This is a counterfeit of what was going to be an alternate cover, but instead of doing the alternate cover, they pasted over what they call the trunk cover. But I believe that this picture is actually used on the 8-track version of Yesterday and Today. This is another mock-up of an album that album Slick that they thought of using. Whoever did these did a beautiful job. These are just these are tip-on jackets. It's just beautiful work, beautiful work. And then here's another one that they did. This is obviously a bootleg, or counterfeit of a butcher cover. Again, tip-on jacket, just looks fantastic. And then we have another counterfeit, and this one is on blue vinyl. This is the mono copy. And then we have just a parody of that cover by Ballbird. Don't know, I haven't listened to it, but. And then next up we have, originally this was called The Beatles Again, and they got released as Hey Jude. This cover was the original idea for it, with this being the back cover. That was scrapped, and again, this is the same fellow that did the Yesterday and Today covers, has done these. These are fantastic quality. This is what became the original cover, but this is an alternate back cover. And then we have, again, the original cover with an alternate back cover, and that was designed but never used. Next up we have a promo of Movie Medley, which was on the Real Music. They put it out as a 45. One side had a movie medley. So this is a 12-inch promo, and then it also has the Fab Four on film talk about A Hard Day's Night, which is also on the 7-inch promo of that. This is a full promo of the Real Music. The promos were numbered and they were on yellow vinyl. Then we have original 1978, I believe, picture disc for Abbey Road with this marble kind of die-cut jacket. I never understood why they did that, but it's kind of nice to have it now because it's really different. The most recent one is, what was this? What year was this? 2019. They used a cover that replicated the original on the back, but on the front it's just blue. I kind of like the looks of this one, really. And then we have, this is a 1975 pressing of Magical Mystery Tour that I bought from Patrick at one of his auctions. And what's unique is that the A-side label is completely blank. So I love getting that kind of oddball stuff. And then we have the 1978 picture disc from the US. Completely different jacket. But I do love the large close-up of the Beatles on that with the drum head. And then of course we have the, what is it, 2019 again. This time the picture disc has the full album cover instead of the close-up. But I like the close-up better, I think. And then this 2019 picture disc has the regular back cover. Standard jacket, not a gatefold. And then this is from France, 1978. And on Parlophone, but this is on green vinyl, if you can see that. And that's it for part 1. I'm going to do a part 2, and it's going to be unusual records, just the oddball stuff, like tribute records and promo stuff that had a Beatles song on it or whatever. But I'm looking forward to doing that because I have a nice, I had too many to do it all in one video. So that's why I'm going to do 2 parts. Thanks for watching. If you saw something you like, or I'd like to read your comments, let me know, and let me know what kind of oddball stuff you've got on the Beatles. Till next time, ciao.